Hello YouTubers, welcome to part 3 of my special build-up, the Super Accessories Super 2. I'm just going to show you the progress I've made in the last couple of weeks over Christmas. So what you're looking at here is a very rare 4-branch manifold, unknown make. It looks very professionally made, so I'm very pleased I managed to purchase that. I've matched it to a pair of twin SUs from a Mini. They don't quite fit. I need to extend the holes down here. The spacing is slightly different to my manifold, so I don't know what Carpson manifold was designed for, but it should be possible for me to make it fit. I fitted a pair of these trumpets or bell mouths, velocity stacks, whatever you want to call them. It's not very dusty in England, and I won't be doing very many miles, so I'm not too fussed about having an air cleaner. I do have some of this foam, which is air cleaner foam, so I might make some kind of boot or something to go over the end maybe. I've done it before, just a little cylindrical boot that slips over the end there. That seems to work very well on one of my other cars. It gets dirty and I clean it, so it must be doing something. So yeah, I'm really pleased with those. So that's ready to be fitted. Moving along, just about everything that was rusty is now not rusty. I've got my trusty wire brushes well worn out, and everything is cleaned and mostly painted now. We'll start with the starter motor. So I did buy some new brushes. They were okay, there was still a bit of life left in them, but in order to change the brushes, you have to de-rivet the end plates with these 8 rivets, and I didn't order any of the rivets, so I'm going to give it a go and keep the brushes for spares in case I need them in the future, or someone who buys the car from me eventually. Back plates of the brakes all done, clean, painted, just everything just cleaned up how it was. It was pretty skanky, so it got a thin coat of black paint on the shoes, rattle can, just a very thin coat, and then the back plates were painted by hand, and that all seems to work very well, so I'm quite happy with them. They came out okay. Now the rear spring, yeah, I've separated it, and I've taken off the top 5 little leaves, and I'm going to see how it goes. If it's too soft, I'll add 1 or 2 of them back in again. It was a devil to get off, I must admit. The metal elastic bushes here, the bolts had seized in the inner sleeve. I'm trying to bash them out while it's still fitted to the brackets on the car. It just meant the rubber bush was just absorbing all the shock, so I had to cut the bolts off. So I've got new bolts. I've got extended bolts because the rear shock absorber lower mount fits on through that bolt there, so that had to be changed anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. I think I've saved the bushes as well. Didn't use any heat. The front plate is from E93A to support the E93A engine mount, because the 100E had engine mounts here. That's the fuel pump, but anyway, that's where the front engine mount went on the 100E. So fitting it onto a chassis designed for E93A meant I have to fit this front timing cover, but I've just noticed yesterday when I just held the water pump, there's some kind of overlap here, so I don't know if you can see, so I'm going to have to cut one or the other or both to try and get them both to fit, so that's an unexpected problem. I've still got to cut the bell housing on the gearbox to suit the starter motor, so that's a job that I'm going to be doing shortly. Okay, moving on, come through to the cold room. The chassis build-up, it's all gone fairly straightforward. I had an issue with the brake. I'm going to keep the cable operated brakes, and this little pivot here hits the spring, so I put it on this block of wood to see if the spring compressed under weight. It did a little bit, so when I get the engine and the body on, hopefully it will compress enough so that clears. The problem is, on rebound, if I go over a bump, it might bounce up and hit the brake operator, so that wouldn't be good. So in that case, I'm either going to have to lower the spring by putting a packer in between the spring and the cross member, or reprofile the spring, which is going to be a little bit more difficult. So anyway, that's another issue I've got to deal with. It's all bolted together fairly well. I used new nuts where I could, all bought kind of as I go along from Fleabay, because these things can really add up. If you buy nuts and bolts in bulk, you'll know they're getting expensive now. Stainless steel Nylox I've used. I've digressed from the period plain self-coloured steel nuts, because I think they're kind of sacrificial anyway. Nuts, they could be changed, so I'm not too fussed about that. The brake assembly was a bit of a head scratcher as well. There's a combined clutch and brake lever part here that's been made for this chassis. The clutch operating lever is missing, so that's going to have to be found, and also the two tubes that go from the pedals connecting to the levers, so I've got to make them. I'm going to use the standard clevises, and I bought a die so I can thread some rod and make it out of that. Some people have made these operating rods out of a tube and just cut a slot in each end. No, it's a bit, not really for a brake, you know, you really want it to be pucker, so I've got that to make. I'm waiting for the die to come. Yeah, it's all gone pretty good. There's the front brake back plates, and the standard Ford part that's been cut. This tie bar here, it's kind of been cut and re-welded just here. All the track rod ends freed up, and I managed to get grease through them, and they look pretty good. The engine mounts, the rear of the chassis. We got these two mounts here. The rear spring bolts across the back here, and the whole of the torque tube is just supported by the spring and the two dampers. There's no hockey stick like you get in a Ford Pop. So we're going to see how that goes. Right, moving outside. Nothing done on the body yet. She's still waiting there. Paint's arrived. British Racing Green. Here's the torque tube. I cut off the. There was a big bracket. A big bracket just here that goes up to support the hockey sticks, and that's been cut off. I had one coat. It was pretty. It took me all day to clean this down. It was really greasy, as they usually always are. And that's the yoke that holds the end of the spring, which I had to cut off with a disc. Get out. There's the pin. Damn thing. Got it out in the end. Okay, so that's the progress. Getting there. It's nice not to be doing any more dirty work with the wire brush, and things are painted now, and I got someone coming over today to help me with some ideas. I'm not really sure how I'm going to mount the body onto the chassis, but that's all going to be fun. Anyway, my name's Andrew Shepherd. Thank you for watching the build of my Super Accessories Super 2, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.